Good morning, Brew Daily Show. I'm Kyle Hagge.
I'm Neal Freyman.
And I'm Toby Howell.
And on today's episode, we see if Neal and Toby can remember the brilliant things they said throughout the year. It's Thursday, December 26th. Let's ride.
Hey, that's my line.
So today we have a very special episode of the podcast with a game called Who Said It? And this is actually our second annual time we've done this. The rules are very complex, all right? So stick with me here. I'm going to read a quote from the podcast that was said during 2024, and you're both going to guess who said it. So crazy stuff going on. So I'll read the quote. You two discuss who you think said the quote. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. And then bonus points if you can tell me the context of the quote. And if you can name a specific episode and date when it was said, then like you might win a brand new car or something. We encourage you to play at home, so feel free to pause the show, think to yourself who said it, or better yet, play it out loud in your commute. Get everyone guessing who said it as well. And it's the only time this year that all three of us, I believe, have been in the studio at once. The government said it's too powerful when we get together, so they let us do it once a year.
Do we have a designated survivor?
Oh, no, I don't know. We'll have to talk to the producers about that.
And I just want, before we start, I just want to thank Ray, our producer, for going through hours and hours and hours of footage for finding these quotes, and to you, Kyle, for hosting the
Of
show.
course. This is one of my favorite episodes, so let's make it a good one. Are you all ready to play Who Said It?
Let's do it.
All right.
ready.
Quote number one. It does feel like the layoffs of early 2024 do have some AI tinge to it. When you listen to these CEOs doing their layoff announcements, it's more strategic focused on reorganizing. It's not like the layoffs of 2023.
Weird use of strategic there.
Yeah, but pretty insightful, so I think me.
I think
me.
I think it's Neal as well, because I would have used strategically, not strategic.
Okay, so you would have used it properly.
Yes.
So Neal did say this.
Yeah.
Now, this was on a pretty special episode. Do you remember what episode this was from?
Wait, so these layoffs have a tinge
Oh,
of AI?
I know what you're talking about. It's when we interviewed Mark Zuckerberg.
Exactly. It was the year of Zuck. It was the Mark Zuckerberg interview, and I think you were talking about should people be worried about AI taking their job. So, Zuck, thank you for that really great quote, and you are correct. Neal had that insightful wisdom. Number two, if I were a betting man in this scenario, I think Warner Bros. Relinquishes the TV rights for the NBA because it's so expensive.
I'm a betting man, but
Let's say Toby.
I think
Yeah,
it's
the
Toby
question
as
is,
well.
who is the bigger DraftKings addict?
I know.
I am. First of all, Toby bets on different types of things, not the NFL like I do. If I were a betting man,
Well, okay, so
don't say stuff like that.
I know, I don't, but also it was correct, though. They did relinquish the rights, even though they are fighting for them still.
They settled that. It's gone.
So it is correct, which means I must have said it.
The answer is Toby.
Let's go.
You are using a correct heuristic. If it's right, Toby probably said it. The NBA TV rights were up for grabs between major media companies.
Right.
This was from May 10th, episode 320.
Okay, yeah. So TNT, the NBA is leaving TNT.
Goodbye. Although inside the NBA, they did come to an agreement, so those boys will still be on your TV screens, which is what we all wanted.
We're still going to have Sir Charles on TV, which is great news. All right, number three. Quote, you want to bring tourists to your neck of the woods, but you also want them to behave responsibly and be respectful of the businesses. What a thoughtful quote here. Who said
Sounds
it?
like me.
Yeah, this is either two things. Well, we did a lot of stories this year about countries kind of cracking down on tourism. One was like Milan started these rules of like quiet hours after a certain time. There was also
People in Barcelona. There were I have a guess that this is what you're referring to. We talked about protesters in Barcelona firing water guns at visitors at restaurants.
There's one wild card though. Remember, Amsterdam like put out a call like banning British men from specifically visiting the city. So there was a lot of stories.
That was
this
certainly
could
a theme
relate
of the
to.
year was over tourism. I guess we got sidetracked here. I think I said it.
Yeah, Neal said it.
Okay, so the guess is Neal said it, and it's about over-tourism, mainly abroad. You're wrong on both accounts. Well done, guys. Toby said this, and it had nothing to do with Europe and international travel. It was Miami launches ad campaign to deter spring breakers.
break.
You all were thinking too intellectually.
Yeah, certainly.
I mean, it is over tourism.
Got to look closer to home.
Wait, say the quote again.
It was, you want to bring tourists to your neck of the woods, but you also want them to behave responsibly and be respectful of the businesses. I think Miami spring break was getting a little out of hand.
Yeah,
stand by it.
Miami Beach they basically tried to cancel spring break.
Yeah, but if you go to Miami Beach, you're not trying to behave responsibly. That's the whole point.
That is the whole point. I have been to Miami Beach during spring break, and people do not behave responsibly.
We'll move on from that. Number 4. This one's nice. We're breaking 85 in golf this year.
I mean, that's
me.
Neal.
That has to be me because Toby probably hasn't shot over an 85 in like 15 years. So that's my goal. And I think I did. I shot an 84, so that's good.
Hell yeah, congratulations. Do you remember when you shared this, though, Neal? You are correct.
No
Was it a
idea.
New Year's resolution?
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay.
It was your New Year's resolution,
Oh,
the
you
first
did it.
episode of 2024, and you pulled it off.
That's huge, actually.
Huge news on the podcast.
I remember
Congratulations.
Stockbridge Country Club in Massachusetts.
He had a great golf year.
A long putt for 84, and you just synced it on 18.
I don't remember. I probably flailed into the end there.
All right, we're moving on to the next quote. This one is pretty serious. We've never seen anything like this in the history of financial markets when a company's earnings report has become as important as the jobs report or the inflation report or a Jerome Powell press conference. Who said it, and what was this quote about?
I think it's Neal and NVIDIA, right? The two N's right there.
Feeling good. The double N squared.
N squared, let's
You
do
are
it.
correct. You guys nailed that one. It was Neal, NVIDIA. You probably said that a million times on this.
A million. It
on
was
the podcast
certainly,
this year.
it was the most important company of the year, the most important stock in the world. Each earnings report was a massive event. They had a watch party here in New York City at a bar over it. I would say, certainly NVIDIA's earnings we may have hit peak NVIDIA earnings, I think. But for a time there, over the summer, it was quite insane.
It was fun. The numbers were gaudy. We were really mad that we didn't come up with the idea of hosting a watch party either. It was a little bit of a nerdy event for sure. The people who before the workday is over goes to a bar in Manhattan just to watch, NVIDIA's earnings drops. It was a fun time, but yeah, unless they somehow double revenue again, which seems unlikely, it probably won't be as big of an event, but still,
A gangbuster of a year for them. It would be really fun if you all did like earnings report watches with Brew
Neal has
Markets.
wanted to do like college game day-esque for like the jobs report or something like that.
If you have it, I just got to be on the panel.
You're on it. You're
Okay,
on it.
Thank
You're
God.
Pat McAfee.
We'll get Nick Saban in the house too. All right, next quote. I probably account for 50% of global sales of Breyers.
Me?
I don't eat Breyers.
You don't eat Breyers. I used to eat a lot of Breyers chocolate ice cream, but I don't see it anymore. It got super expensive. So I would say that quote refers to me from age 8 to 16.
Okay,
but what is this-
inflation has taken away your love.
Yeah,
of
what
ice
is this
cream.
in reference to, though?
So it was Neal. It was March 20th, so it was earlier this year, and it was about parent company Unilever trying to sell its ice cream businesses.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And it was also, they cited too that it was so hot that it was bad for the ice cream business. There is like an ideal temperature in the summers. If it gets too hot, people don't want to eat ice cream because it just melts there. So that was the first time I ever considered the fact that it could be too hot for ice cream.
It's probably good we're getting corporate interests aligned on not having climate change.
Yeah,
run away.
ice cream business.
Ice
has
cream
a
companies are gonna
vested
fight
interest.
this.
Wait, let's go around here. What's everyone's favorite ice cream brand?
Ben and Jerry's.
What flavor?
There's Americone Dream. It's really good. If I'm not doing Ben and Jerry's, Salt and Straw. Now that it's in New York City.
Right, and that is a Pacific Northwest staple.
So
That's
good.
a bougie answer for sure. Delicious as well. I grew up on Edie's, which not a lot of people did. My uncle used to work for them. It's EDY''S.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
If anyone's done a crossword puzzle, Edie's is in pretty much all
Yeah,
the line.
and it is underrated, I will say. I just never meet anyone who actually eats it, but since I had the familial tie, I was an Edie's family.
Going back to Americone Dream, Stephen Colbert, that's Stephen Colbert's
so
flavor.
good.
He lives in Montclair, New Jersey. I was talking to someone from Montclair, New Jersey. They saw he went to a supermarket and bought Americone Dream. He bought his own ice cream.
That's like Michael
Honestly,
Jordan
that's a
buying
flex.
Jordans right there.
Also, we're doxing Stephen Colbert on that.
It's a well-known fact.
Public interest.
All right, we're going to move on to the next quote. Every media company now has a streaming platform. So how do you stand out these days? It's having live sports.
Oh.
I mean, it's a pretty generic quote. Let's be.
I know.
Yeah, I think
he's
I've
gonna
heard
pin it on me.
every single person
The
say
first part, I thought it was going to be in reference to Chick-fil-A launching a streaming service, but then I think it is like a Netflix thing bidding on live sports. They made a ton of, inroads into that.
I'm going to give you the date, and maybe that helps you identify what they're specifically talking about. It was an early episode, January 16th.
See, that seems.
I was here on January 16th.
That seems a little.
That was in reference to the Mike Tyson Jake Paul launch.
No, this is.
No.
Yeah, that's way too early for that.
Well, I'm saying they announced it. It just happened. But or the Christmas Day NFL games.
Still seems too.
Either way, we're not answering the question.
I'll take it, but I don't think it's in reference to those sporting events.
Oh, WWE, right?
Maybe it was WWE.
It was Peacock streaming the Chief Dolphins AFC
the
wildcard
playoffs.
game, and Neal said it.
All right.
Neal said it. All right, I love this next quote.
Okay.
This is a classic case of the over-engineering that has gripped our society. Why can't we just have a low-tech vending machine? What was wrong with the former system where you put in a quarter, you type F3, and you get a snack? Someone is on their philosophical society level
Seriously.
quote here. Who said it?
If I remember correctly, Toby did a Toby's Trends on people acquiring vending machines as a side hustle. So that's the only thing I can go off of. So that's what I'll say.
And I guess we were railing against vending machines getting too.
Like
oh
Coke
no,
Freestyle.
it's not Toby's Trends. It was the facial recognition technology at certain colleges that people were like freaking out about. Like, why does our vending machine need facial recognition? And it still was me though.
An incredible call. It was Toby, and you nailed it. It was about the facial recognition technology on college campuses. You have like very good memories of what you all said.
Two vending machine stories this past year though. That's pretty good.
It was either NVIDIA or vending machines.
Yeah.
That's all we're talking about. Okay, next quote. This is what you've always seen in music. People pushing the boundaries. This is why music is an awesome medium. A deep quote here.
Super deep.
Someone did the research on this one.
Music pushing the boundaries.
It does. I mean, it's probably me.
But I can't.
Because Toby likes music, but he doesn't like wax poetic about it.
Okay, well let's try to think of the context though.
Yep.
I mean, there could be so many things. I don't think we would say that, the Drake-Kendrick Lamar beef was necessarily pushing the boundaries of music. So maybe process of elimination, that is not it.
I'm drawing a blank here. You got to help us out.
So it was February 2nd. Toby actually said it.
Okay.
Which this is why music is an awesome medium. That feels Toby coded.
Yeah, it
And it
doesn't
was-
really mean much.
It was it was Beyonce announcing her country album during the Super Bowl.
Okay, I feel better about it now.
A
Music's
throwback
an
to the
awesome
Cowboy Carter.
medium.
All right. I love this one too. Bring a megaphone, especially if you're a podcaster.
Bring a megaphone, especially if you're a podcaster.
I have no idea. Bring a
Give us a hint.
megaphone. It's like
Give
a
us a
field day.
All right. Get the calendar out. It's April 30th.
We're still early in the year.
This was in reference to an extracurricular activity that one of you two did outside of the studio.
That's what I said. That's exactly what I said. Toby hosted field day.
Wait, when was it? It was in April?
Yep.
Was it my sister's wedding? Because I hosted field day at my sister's wedding.
You all nailed it.
There we go.
Exactly. Toby said it. Toby lost his voice hosting field games during his sister's wedding. So if you brought a megaphone, you wouldn't have to yell.
It's really fun though, because people of all ages, we're talking grandparents to kids, come and compete. It's a great icebreaker. You get to meet people from different friend groups, different parts of the family. And I definitely recommend doing it if you have a wedding coming up.
But maybe you have a megaphone if you're leading it.
Definitely have a
Especially if you host a podcast.
That is literally what I have written down. Bring a megaphone, especially if your job is podcaster.
I literally couldn't talk like the day before the podcast, but that was my Jordan flu game. I played through the pain.
Have you found yourself in like loud music situations where you're yelling and you realize you have this the next day and you're like, I think I'm just gonna shut up?
A little bit. Well, first of all, music is a wonderful medium.
It is.
And second of all, sometimes I feel the voice straining if like you go and socialize too hard and you gotta tone
You're
it
like,
down
this
a
is the
little.
way I make money.
Protect the money maker.
I think from a corporate risk standpoint, we need both of
Right,
your
ensure
vocal
our
cords insured.
Our vocal.
Yeah, we got to talk to someone about that. All right, next quote. That's one of the problems with buy now, pay later. When you make these purchases, you can't build credit through them. Really good analysis here. Who said it?
I remember this story too. It was just about a report that it was this huge blind spot in terms of like creating credit reports, is that buy now, pay later didn't contribute or hurt your credit score. So it was just like this lurking beast of a thing.
That's right. Some are calling it phantom debt.
Phantom debt. There it was.
So
who
who broke down phantom debt?
I think it was me. I think I introduced that story. So I'm going to say.
Let's go with Toby.
It was Neal. Oh my gosh.
I need to just learn to read your face.
Yeah, I think I'm giving it away. You
Yeah.
two are looking at each other too much.
I think what happens is one of us introduces the story, so they think that's who said it, but it's probably the person who replied to the
person.
story that we
With
got.
the nice
So we
quip.
have to invert our thinking here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Next quote. I just say, quote, you know your deal is stupid. It's going to go to zero because it's a bad idea. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. Take it behind the barn and shoot it and try something else. I'm the only one that tells the truth.
That would be Mr. Wonderful.
Kevin O'Leary.
Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. We interviewed him on Black Friday, and he was pretty unsparing in his criticism of his fellow sharks on the show.
It was pretty fun to see him in a podcast setting because he is the exact same as how he is on the show. He also has his phrases. He loves saying, take it behind the barn.
Yeah, I don't want to see the behind his barn.
He
There's
has
a lot
said,
of
he has said
ideas
that
there.
to entrepreneurs face to face, and so it's part of his lexicon, and he busted it out in our interview as well.
Did you end up taking any of his advice to get into watches?
I mean, I have looked. I have paralysis by analysis because Mr. Wonderful is also a big watch collector.
No
and
surprise there.
I wore my Apple Watch in, and he was just going in on the fact that Apple Watches have no soul. You need to get into more collecting of these art pieces. And he gave me a few names, but then I looked up the price tag, and I got a little nervous. So I'm still rocking the Apple Watch.
Well, if Rolex, Patek, Grand Seiko, if they're
sponsor
listening,
the pod.
He's like 5 levels deeper than those brands.
Yeah. Well,
Patek?
he's a Patek guy.
Patek guy?
that guy. We'll be right back with some more quotes. Okay, another really insightful quote here. Let's guess who said it. Talk on de-dollarization is something that gets on my last nerves. People keep saying no one is going to use the US dollar. The US dollar is going to explode. If the US dollar explodes, the rest of the financial system will explode, including crypto. There needs to be less fear-mongering around it.
It's got to be you, Kyle.
No. It's Kyla Scanlon, I think. It's our interview with Kyla. That's because we talked about de-dollarization with her, and it seemed a little bit more insightful than what we came up with. So
One, I just have to say, I'm honored that Neal heard de-dollarization. He goes, yeah, it was Kyle. For sure.
You're more opinionated than we are. So I would never say something like this gets on my last nerves.
Yeah, all right.
You know?
That's insightful.
it was it Kyla Scanlon?
It was
though?
Kyla Scanlon,
Nice.
a really good interview you all did, and apparently de-dollarization gets on her last nerves.
That was probably one of our favorite interviews of the year because Kyla's an economist, but she also can speak very colloquially about these things. So she can say things like de-dollarization gets on my last nerve because she thinks about that stuff. So, and it has been a little bit more of a talking point in recent months. I mean, as we're recording this, some of like the BRICS nations have floated the idea of decoupling their economies from the dollar. So Kyla just needs to go in front of, these nations and say it doesn't make sense to de-dollarize. But yeah, that one was, if you haven't listened to that interview, I highly recommend going back because that was one of our best of the year.
Agreed. Very insightful breakdown there, Toby. For next year, we need to take a quote from this episode. And
It's just meta quotes.
It's going to be a
Yeah.
meta quote. All right, moving on to a next quote. I think COVID changed people's perspectives on trade work. As businesses shut down, people realized that trade work and skilled trade workers were reliable, well-paying jobs that weren't going away.
I think this was a Toby's trends of like plumbers and electricians being just more and more in demand because they have these hard skills. And it was like part of the disillusionment with going to college because why would you go to a 4-year institution, get all this debt when you could go into a trade and immediately start making money? It's like a 2-year institution. So, but I'm going to do the rule we just thought about. If I introduce it, it usually means it's Neal because he responded to the story.
You guys are two in your own heads now.
No!
It was Toby.
Shoot.
It was Toby. It was about Gen Z skipping college
Yeah.
and going to trade schools. All right, moving on. This one's very fun because it starts with, it is just club bangers, one after another. I was listening to it midday yesterday, and I was like, I really shouldn't be listening to this right now because I need to get on a dance floor right now.
I think I said that about the Charlie XCX album.
Wait, I don't even remember you saying that.
Literally, Neal saying about you two were talking about the song in the summer. This was in reference to Charlie XCX, and it was Neal. Well done, club bangers.
I would say
at the
prescient
office.
too.
Very prescient.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed the Brat Summer. That is funny though that because you do listen to Charlie XCX. You did go through kind of the Song of the Summer era. So.
I exhausted that album pretty quickly.
Really?
It's kind of like one note, pretty intense stuff, and I think I like some more mellow things just to balance it out. But luckily, there was insane amount of amazing music this year. Charlie XCX.
You had a Brat Girl era, and now you're moving on.
Yeah.
That's fair. Next quote. This is really just an example of how TikTok can play into spreading some not-so-sound financial advice.
I mean, this was about tax advice spreading on TikTok where people were saying you could like write off your little small white puppy as a guard dog and just saying a lot of interesting things on TikTok.
I'm sure that happened, but it's not correct. There was one trend that went pretty viral on TikTok, and it dealt with...
was it the bank glitch?
Bank glitch is
the
very
Chase
close. I
bank
think
glitch.
that's what it is.
Like the infinite money code.
Out of the ATM.
out of the Chase ATMs.
Yes. So it's the viral Chase ATM trend where people were basically committing check fraud when you broke it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who said it, though? Was it Toby or was it Neal?
Say that again?
It was,
Or say the
quote again.
This really is just an example of how TikTok can play into spreading some not-so-sound financial advice.
Toby.
Not so sounds like me.
You guys know yourself well. It was Toby. No,
I would have done that in just one word. He needs 3.
I like not so sound. Yeah.
Yeah, Neal is all about brevity.
What an evergreen quote that is, though, because TikTok does constantly spread
You could have
not
said
so
that-
sound financial advice.
Could have said that on any episode during the year.
By the way, actually, when I do not so sound, it's because in my head I want to like say a much harsher word, and I have to dial it back, and so what comes out is this hedged word of not so sound.
Just say what you mean.
Lean in, Toby.
It's usually
We're doing a writing workshop right now.
right. I know it is, but I remember thinking like I'm about to say like a curse word on air. Let's dial it back. Not so sound comes out, so that is why sometimes those phrases emerge.
So if you're listening at home and you hear Toby say not so sound, just know he's actually
You
swearing.
wanted to say something else.
Yeah. All right, next quote. I think people are looking at the broad candy market and seeing people are innovating in the candy sector. They're not innovating as much in the chocolate sector, and that's why you're seeing people lean towards candy instead of chocolate. Okay, someone went to business school before this quote.
I did not go to business school, but I think I said it.
I know what it's in relation to. Do you know what it's in relation to?
No, but first say who said it.
Well, I think, again, I introduced this story because
you then.
I think it's about Walgreens it unveiled this peelable mango candy that kind of set the internet on fire. And we started saying that a lot more innovation is happening in candy versus chocolate. You can see sales rising in candy, falling in chocolate. So I think it's in relation to the Walgreens mango story.
But who said it, Toby?
I'll take credit for it.
It was Toby.
Okay.
Neal incorrect. And this was candy makers shifting towards Halloween gummies versus chocolate.
Similar concept of the sour gummies are just like the biggest growth area in the confection industry.
Yeah, this was an incredible breakdown. I want to see this on like a memo that's distributed to like Mars or Hershey's.
All you got to do is scroll through TikTok. That's what you see. All these candy brands are just so big on there right now. Also, cocoa prices are at an all-time high, so maybe it's just you have to innovate on the gummy side of things because chocolate's just so expensive.
Constraints create innovation.
Yeah.
Next quote. Theatricality is critical. People know it's scripted, but it doesn't matter because we're all hardwired for narrative. And even though we know it's scripted, we're gonna feel those emotions.
Oh my God.
It sounds like WWE.
Yeah, that's where I went first, but I have no idea what this is in relation to.
So I'll give you a hint.
Yeah.
It's not either of you.
Okay, that makes we're hardwired for narrative.
Yeah, it sounded way too smart for us.
Who else did we
That's why I
talk
was
to this?
stumped.
Is it
And let me give you another clue.
is it Kyle?
No. Macy did a really cool video where she was actually selling these in New York.
Oh, hot dogs?
Yep. Warmer.
This is the CEO of competitive eating.
Ding, ding, ding. George Shea.
Yeah.
You did an awesome interview with Hot Dogs Eating Contest host extraordinaire George Shea.
Right.
and he loved the theatricality.
Wow.
He definitely likes the theatricality. That was
actually,
super fun.
That was a very insightful episode because he does, anyone who's seen the 4th of July hot dog eating contest, he does these world famous introductions where he literally waxes poetic about each one of these competitive eaters, and he takes it very seriously. He understands human nature very deeply. So even though it seems like this kitschy 4th of July show, he thinks about it a lot. That also was one of our favorites. That is, you personally were very excited for that one.
It's such a cool interview, and such a cool story.
So here's the question: is Joey Chestnut going to be back at Nathan's on Coney Island next year?
You all seem like the experts. I hope so.
I know. If he doesn't go back, it will slowly lose its relevance. I feel bad for our boy George Shea because he signed. He had this marketing agreement that went south with, or not went south, but just like was a conflict of interest with Impossible Foods and Nathan's, and so he ended up doing like a Netflix show with Kobayashi instead. So he's got to come back though.
We'll have George Shea back on it to break this down next year. Last quote. When I think of this story, I just think to myself, man, this is totally going to be a movie one day because it's soaked with drama and so many important issues of our time tied into this one man.
Sounds like me.
Who's the one man?
Story. Wow.
Give it to us one more time.
Okay. When I think of this story, I just think to myself, man, this is totally going to be a movie one day because it's soaked with drama and so many important issues of our time tied into this one man.
I don't actually know what it is. You got a hint for us?
It's an app founder. The app allows you to send messages.
Pavel Durov, Telegram.
Nailed it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, he was arrested
He's had a
in
pretty
France.
wild year.
Yeah.
He was, because Telegram is like this sleeping giant in the social media world. It crossed 1 billion users. It's very popular in, certain communities like Ukraine, Russia, encrypted. But yeah, Pavel Durov has like a ton of kids. He's very into, like the longevity biohacking movement. He is just a incredible figure and probably will get a movie. Are we saying Neal said it though? I think Neal said it.
Neal did say it.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
That's a good
I
call.
laid on the drama with that quote for sure.
Yeah.
But he is a pretty fascinating character.
Super interesting. All right, special last question.
Oh.
Who said it? Let's ride.
I think, wait, we all said it.
At some point,
You have 99% market share.
Yes.
But I said it once,
we have
a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I said it
And
on
then
this
you
episode.
said it on this episode.
Look at that.
We've all had a few.
What a beautiful moment.
We're all coming together at
all
the
of
end.
us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I will announce the winners, and I'll say the real winners are the audience because I want to give a shout out literally to you both and the entire team at Morning Brew Daily.
Wow.
If you think about all of these quotes, all of the stories you covered over the past 300 plus days, it's pretty remarkable. And I think you've just created such an awesome show. People absolutely love this. And I see you all waking up at 4 a.m. every day to make this happen. So kudos to you. It was really fun to go through all these stories again.
It really is crazy. We are professional talkers. All we do is spit out quotes like this, some of them better than others. So thank you, Kyle, for helping host us. Thank you, Ray, for picking out quotes that make us look relatively good.
And thank you for filling in, Kyle.
Of course. Neal and Toby, thanks for playing our second annual Who Said It game. I guess I'll see you back here in about 365 days.
Let's do it.
Let's roll the credits now. Emily Milliron is our executive producer. Raymond Liu is our producer. Olivia Graham is our associate producer. Uchenna Waogu is our technical director. Billy Menino is on audio. Hair and makeup had no memorable quotes this year. Devin Emery is our chief content officer. And our show is a production of Morning Brew. Thanks for listening.
Great show today, Kyle. Let's run it back again next year.